At my sister's wedding, my son's name was suddenly announced. Please welcome the boy with no father. Laughter filled the room as my sister clapped in delight. My son sat silently, his shoulders shaking as tears fell. My mother took a sip of wine and said, "It's just a joke. Lighten up." But then the groom stood up, holding an envelope. Minnesota winter mornings are mercilessly cold. Emily Brown finished her night shift at the hospital and hurried across the snow-covered parking lot. When she started her car, the dashboard clock showed 7. She needed to rush home, or her son Liam would be late for school. Emily's life was a constant battle against time. She lived with her 12-year-old son Liam in Willowbrook, a small town in Minnesota, working as a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital, while raising her son as a single mother. She was doing her best to make ends meet. "Mom, can you come to my game today?" Liam asked, while stirring his breakfast cereal. His brown hair was a bit too long, occasionally hiding his large brown eyes. "I'm sorry, honey. I have another shift starting this evening," Emily apologized. "But I've asked Coach Jim to record it for us." Liam shrugged. "It's okay, Mom, I understand." There was disappointment in his voice, but he quickly regained his cheerful smile. "I'm going to make a 3-pointer today." Emily gently stroked her son's head. Liam had grown up without knowing his father. When Emily discovered she was pregnant, her boyfriend Daniel had disappeared, saying he wasn't ready for a family yet. Since then, Emily had struggled to raise her child alone. The phone rang, and Emily sighed. It was her mother, Evelyn. "Good morning, Mom." "Emily, you didn't answer your phone yesterday." Evelyn's voice had a reproachful tone. "I was working the night shift." "I need to talk to you about Sarah's wedding," Evelyn continued, ignoring her daughter's excuse. "I want to confirm the invitation list." "You and Liam are coming, right?" "Of course," Emily replied while gazing out the window. "But I still need to arrange my shifts." "This is your sister's once-in-a-lifetime special day." Evelyn's voice grew stern. "Her marriage to James Harrison is big news in this town. He's a famous architect, and Sarah is finally going to establish a wonderful family." Evelyn owned an upscale clothing store in Willowbrook. For her, social status and appearances were paramount. She had been beautiful in her youth and still retained traces of that beauty, but it was now mixed with a certain coldness. "I know, we'll be there. Make sure Liam wears proper attire," Evelyn said. "Sarah's new in-laws are all very refined people." Emily nodded silently. In Evelyn's eyes, her single mother, eldest daughter, and the grandson with an unknown father were always a family embarrassment. In contrast, her younger daughter Sarah had been spoiled by Evelyn since childhood. She had studied accounting at the local university and was now successful as a manager at a luxury boutique hotel. "By the way, the wedding preparation committee meeting is this Thursday," Evelyn said. "You should come too. I'm working on Thursday, and I also have a parent-teacher conference for Liam." "Always an excuse, isn't it?" Disappointment seeped into Evelyn's voice. "Sarah asked you to be her bridesmaid, and you can't even make time. Do you know how hurt Sarah is?" Emily wanted to object, but knew it was pointless. Sarah had never once asked her to be a bridesmaid. In fact, Sarah had asked her high school friends. But in Evelyn's mind, her eldest daughter's unwillingness to participate in her sister's wedding was proof of Emily's failure. "All right, Mum. I'll see if I can change my shift on Thursday." After hanging up, Emily leaned against the kitchen counter for a while. In the 3 months since Sarah's engagement announcement, every family conversation had revolved around the wedding. "Mom, are you okay?" Liam asked worriedly. Emily smiled at her son. "I'm fine. Grandma is just excited about your aunt's wedding. I'm looking forward to the chocolate fountain." Liam's eyes sparkled. "Aunt said they'll have a really big one." Emily felt warmed by her son's innocent joy. Liam had always been her support. "It's time for school," she said. "Put on your coat." After Liam left the room, Emily picked up her smartphone and checked a message from Sarah. "I'm working on the seating arrangements. Can Liam behave properly? Should we seat him toward the back?" Emily put down her phone and took a deep breath. She thought the next few weeks were going to be long. On the morning of the wedding day, Emily's small apartment had an unusual tension. In the bedroom, Liam was struggling with his new suit. "I can't get this tie right," he said. Emily paused from ironing the last wrinkles out of her dress and headed to her son's room. Liam stood in front of the mirror with a navy blue tie dangling around his neck, looking troubled. "Come here," Emily smiled. taking her son's tie. I'll teach you the perfect Windsor knot. Liam watched his mother's hands intently. This suit was expensive, wasn't it? He asked softly. Emily paused momentarily. Liam's navy blue suit had cost her 3 months' worth of overtime pay. Despite their financial struggles, she wanted her son to look his best for the occasion. Don't worry about it, she said lightly. It's a special outfit for a special day. Do I look handsome? Liam asked anxiously. You look absolutely handsome, Emily replied as she straightened his shoulders. You'll be the most wonderful boy at this wedding. Liam grinned. His smile seemed to brighten their entire small apartment. Emily kissed him lightly on the cheek. It's almost time to leave. Before leaving the apartment, Emily checked herself in the mirror. Her simple navy blue dress was borrowed from a hospital colleague. This was the best she could do. She took a deep breath and squared her shoulders. It'll be fine, she told herself. Mom, you look beautiful, Liam said from behind her. Emily smiled at her son. Thank you, honey. As they got into the car, Emily's smartphone rang. It was Evelyn. Emily, don't be late. We're taking family photos before the ceremony. Evelyn's voice was high with tension. We're just leaving now, Mum. Sarah is worried. She's anxious about whether you'll show up properly. Emily gripped the steering wheel tightly. We will arrive at the promised time. Can Liam behave himself? Can he sit still during the ceremony? Mom, Liam is 12 years old now. He's not a baby. Emily's voice had a rare edge of anger. Evelyn sighed on the other end of the line. I understand, but he's been raised in special circumstances. Special circumstances, Evelyn's favorite euphemism, avoiding directly saying the fact that he had no father. We'll be arriving shortly, Emily said calmly and hung up. Liam was staring out the window. Grandma doesn't like me, does she? He suddenly asked. Emily looked at her son. She was sometimes surprised by Liam's sensitivity. That's not true. Grandma just has some old-fashioned ideas, but she loves you in her own way. Liam nodded silently. When they arrived at the luxurious garden of the Marriott Hotel, Emily and Liam were overwhelmed by the elegant decorations and sense of luxury. The wedding venue, adorned with white roses and lavender, looked like something out of a fairy tale. At the entrance stood a sign with Sarah and James written in gold letters. Wow, Mom. Liam's eyes shone. It's like a movie. As they entered the lobby, Evelyn hurriedly approached them. She was wearing a pearl necklace and a light lavender dress. Finally, you're here. Evelyn glanced briefly at Emily, then immediately turned her attention to Liam. Hello, Liam. What a nice suit. Her voice softened, but there was a hint of surprise in it. Where's Sarah? Emily asked. In the bride's room. Hurry. The family photo session has already started. They rushed down the hotel corridor. Along the way, Emily noticed many unfamiliar faces. Evelyn seemed to have invited many wealthy friends, as expensive clothing and sparkling jewelry caught her eye. When they arrived at the bride's room, Sarah was sitting, surrounded by multiple stylists. Her blonde hair was styled in an elaborate updo, and she was wearing a white silk robe. Emily, you finally made it, Sarah exclaimed when she saw her sister. I was so worried. We arrived earlier than the promised time, Emily replied quietly. Liam, you've grown so much, Sarah said to her nephew. There's a dessert table. Why don't you check it out later? Liam looked at Emily. She nodded slightly, and he gave a shy smile. Before the photo shoot, I need to talk to you. Evelyn took Emily's arm and pulled her to a corner of the room. Sarah followed them. This is a special day, Evelyn said with a stern expression. James's family members are all very important people. His father is close to the mayor, and, Emily frowned. After the family photos, I want you two to sit in the back, Sarah interjected. I've reserved the main seats for James's cousins. We'd like you to not draw attention, Evelyn added. This is Sarah's important day. Emily was speechless. Anger welled up in her chest, but she knew starting an argument here wouldn't do any good. Today was her sister's day. Fine, she answered quietly. Liam and I will sit in the back. How unusually compliant, Sarah laughed lightly. Thank you, Emily. The photo session was painful. Emily and Liam were placed at the edge of the family photos, and for some shots the photographer said, family only, excluding them. Liam squeezed his mother's hand tightly. It's okay, Emily whispered in her son's ear. It's enough that we're here. Before the ceremony began, Emily and Liam were shown to their seats in the very last row. Liam was distracted by the beauty of the venue, pointing out the sparkling chandeliers and colorful flowers. Look, Mum, It's so beautiful. Emily was warmed by her son's innocent joy. For him, this was just a wonderful adventure. He didn't notice his mother's sadness. The music began, and the guests stood up, watching Sarah enter on her father's arm. Emily felt mixed emotions, but wished for her sister's happiness. "The groom looks cool," Liam said innocently. Indeed, James Harrison had an impressive appearance. He was tall, with a composed demeanor and sincere eyes. The way he looked at Sarah showed genuine affection. As guests moved to the reception hall, Emily took Liam's hand. The reception hall was adorned with dazzling decorations, and crystal chandeliers cast a soft light from the ceiling. Following the seating chart they received at the entrance, Emily and Liam were guided to the back of the venue. Their table was located near an exit, a place where kitchen staff frequently passed through. "We're sitting here?" Liam asked quietly. "Yes, honey," Emily answered gently. "We can see everything from here." At the main table in front, the newlyweds and the main family members were seated. Sarah was radiant in her pure white wedding dress, while James sat beside her with a refined smile. Evelyn was also there, laughing loudly in her lavishly jeweled appearance. Their happy conversation blended with the soft music filling the venue. "Oh, there's the chocolate fountain." Liam's eyes lit up. A massive chocolate fountain had been set up in a corner of the hall, where guests were dipping fruits and pastries into the flowing chocolate. "We'll go there together later." Emily smiled at her son. She had decided to stay cheerful all day for Liam's sake. After the food was served, champagne poured, and toasts and speeches were given. Dessert was served, and the MC took the microphone again. "Ladies and gentlemen, are you enjoying this wonderful evening?" he called out to the entire hall. "Now, before the cake cutting, the bride and groom have prepared a special entertainment." As the room fell silent, the MC took out a card and began to read. "We have a special guest to introduce today." Emily reached for her wine glass and took a sip. Perhaps this was some entertainment by James's relatives or friends. "Here is Liam Brown, a boy with an unknown father. Please come to the stage." The MC's voice echoed throughout the hall. Emily's wine glass slipped from her hand, leaving a red stain on the tablecloth. The room fell silent for a moment, then uneasy laughter began to spread. "Liam, where are you?" "Special guest Liam," the MC called again. Liam's face turned bright red, and tears welled up in his eyes. His small shoulders began to tremble. Emily sat frozen. Her heart was pounding, and she felt her whole body heating up with anger and humiliation. Looking at the main table, she saw Sarah clapping with delight. "Humor is so important, isn't it?" Evelyn said to the woman next to her as she tilted her wine glass. "It's a lovely idea to add some laughter to the ceremony." Emily stood up. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was surprisingly calm. "Liam, let's go home." "But, Mom," Liam said, trying to hold back tears. "No, please wait." Suddenly, a strong voice resonated from the front of the hall. James Harrison stood up and took the microphone. The room fell silent again. Sarah's smile froze. "I want to tell you all something important today," James said in a calm but powerful voice. He took an envelope from his formal suit pocket. Emily stood with her hand on Liam's shoulder protectively. Her mind was in confusion. What kind of charade was this? "I want to talk about the truth regarding Liam Brown," James said as he opened the envelope. Sarah rose from her seat and exclaimed, "James, what are you doing?" But he quietly gestured for her to sit down. "These are documents to legally welcome Liam Brown as my son." He took papers out of the envelope. They include certificates to give him his father's surname and establish an educational trust fund. As murmurs spread through the hall, James looked toward Liam. "He is no longer a child without a father. He will become my son." Sarah turned pale, and Evelyn was left speechless with her mouth open. Liam's eyes were wide with confusion and surprise. "What are you saying?" Sarah said in a trembling voice. "This is a joke, right?" "This is not a joke," James answered firmly. He left the main table and began walking toward Emily and Liam's table. Everyone in the hall held their breath, watching this unexpected development. James knelt in front of Liam. "Liam, I would like to formally welcome you as my son, of course, if your mother permits." His voice was gentle and sincere. Liam looked at his mother with a confused expression. Emily was equally confused. She didn't know James. She couldn't understand why he would do such a thing. "What kind of joke is this?" Emily asked softly. "Why would you do this?" "This is no joke," James stood up and looked Emily straight in the eyes. I have my reasons, and I want everyone to hear them now. He took the microphone again. Everyone, I also grew up without a father. At these words, the hall fell even more silent. When I was 12, while my mother raised me alone, we struggled financially, and many people looked down on us. James's voice was filled with deep emotion. At a Christmas party, I was introduced as the child without a father and humiliated in front of everyone. The guests were listening breathlessly. Sarah sat stunned. When I met Liam, I saw myself in him, and I realized there was something I could do, James continued. Blood ties are not the only definition of family. Choice and love create family. Many guests began to shed tears of emotion. Liam's eyes shone with surprise and hope. I want to provide Liam with legal protection and support. Instead of being called a boy with an unknown father, I want him to live with pride. James held up the documents. This is a promise for Liam's future. Sarah, red-faced with anger and shame, left her seat and rushed out of the hall. Evelyn hurriedly followed her. Applause broke out in the hall, and many guests stood up to show their appreciation. Liam looked up at James with a mixture of tears and smiles. Emily embraced her son with trembling hands, speechless at this unexpected turn of events. Her heart was a mixture of confusion, gratitude, and weariness. Amid the applause filling the venue, James turned to Emily. His eyes held a mixture of determination and gentleness. "May I have some time to talk with you?" he said quietly. Emily hesitated briefly, then nodded. "Liam, wait here for a bit." "But, Mom," Liam said with a confused expression. "It's okay. I'll be right back," Emily said gently, giving her son a light kiss on the cheek. James guided Emily to a small reception room in a corner of the venue. Inside were soft sofas and potted plants, and the twilight sky was visible through the windows. "I'd like an explanation," Emily said as soon as the door closed. Her voice mixed tension and caution. "What kind of performance is this?" James took a deep breath. "First, let me apologize. What Sarah did to Liam is unforgivable. She prepared that script, and I only found out about it this morning. Then those documents?" Emily folded her arms. "They are real," James said with a sincere expression. "I want to legally become Liam's guardian. I want to establish a trust fund for his education and future." "Why?" Emily's voice trembled. "You don't know us." James gestured for her to sit on the sofa, sitting down himself. "Actually, I've met Liam several times at the local basketball tournaments." Emily frowned. She rarely made it to her son's games. Night shifts and overtime often coincided. "I volunteer as a coach," James explained. "Liam is very talented. As I talked with him, I learned about his situation, and—" He paused for a moment, as if searching for words. "I remembered my own childhood." "Did you really grow up without a father?" Emily asked skeptically. "Yes," James nodded. "My mother worked as a maid. I was able to go to college, thanks to scholarships, but the journey to get there was difficult," Emily said quietly. "Liam is a special child," James continued. "He needs opportunities, and I want to protect him from people who label him as fatherless." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. "I couldn't protect him." "No, you are a wonderful mother," James said earnestly. "Liam is loving, polite, and intelligent. That's all thanks to you. But what about Sarah?" Emily asked. "She's your fiancée." James's expression clouded. "Today, I saw her true self. Our values are too different. What about the wedding?" "It will probably be cancelled," James answered quietly. "For me, doing the right thing is more important." Emily gazed out the window. "Why are you doing this? What's in it for you?" "It's not about gain." James shook his head. "There was no one to help 12-year-old me. So now, I want to help." There was a knock at the door, and Liam peeked in cautiously. "Can I come in?" "Come in." Emily extended her hand. Liam entered the room and sat next to his mother. "Everyone was looking at me," he said softly. "How did that make you feel?" James asked gently. Liam thought for a moment before answering. "I was scared at first, but now I don't know. I'm confused." James looked Liam straight in the eyes. "Liam, I'm not forcing anything on you. This is just an offer. If I become your legal father, you won't have to worry about tuition or your future, and you won't need to write no father on school or official forms." Liam's eyes widened. "Really? But I want you to promise me one thing," James said with a serious expression. "Take care of your mother." She's the bravest and most dedicated person in the world. Liam looked up at Emily. Mom, what do you think? Emily gently stroked her son's hair. Her head was full of complex thoughts. Was this really going to benefit them? Or was there some other intention? This is just a paperwork procedure, James said, as if sensing Emily's concerns. I just want to give Liam stability and security. Our relationship would be strictly as Liam's legal guardians. That's all? Emily asked skeptically. That's all, James nodded. Perhaps I could play basketball with Liam once a week, or help with school matters, things like that. But all with your permission. Emily thought deeply. Throughout her life, she had believed many promises, only to be betrayed. However, truth shone in James's eyes, and above all, this was an opportunity for Liam's future. Liam, what do you want? She asked her son. Liam thought for a moment before answering. James always comes to watch my basketball games, and he taught me how to pass and make shots. I think he's a good person. James smiled at Liam. But isn't he going to marry Auntie? Liam continued. James shook his head. After today's events, I don't think that will happen. At that moment, the door burst open, and Sarah entered with an angry face. Evelyn was behind her. How much more will you humiliate me? Sarah shouted at James. You've ruined this wedding, and now you're trying to steal my nephew. Liam is a boy, Emily quietly corrected. Whatever. Sarah waved her hand. James, if this is a joke, stop it right now and apologize to the guests. James stood up and faced Sarah with a resolute attitude. This is not a joke. I wanted to show what true family means here today. I can't show my face in this town anymore, Sarah cried. There are more important things, James answered quietly. Evelyn turned to Emily. Were you involved in this? Did you seduce him? Mom, stop it, Emily said in a tired voice. Don't always blame everything on me. Sarah stormed out of the venue in anger and humiliation, and Evelyn followed her. Silence returned to the room. 1 year later, a Minnesota park was bathed in early summer sunshine. On the basketball court, middle schoolers were engaged in a heated game. Liam Harrison had the ball, skillfully dribbled past his opponent, and made a perfect three-point shot. Nice shot, James called out, and Liam beamed. Emily's applause echoed from the stands. Dressed in her nurse's uniform, she had come to watch her son's game between shifts. When the final whistle blew, Liam's team celebrated their victory. After high-fiving his teammates, he ran over to James and Emily. Did you see that shot? Liam asked excitedly. It was perfect. Emily hugged her son. Your team won thanks to you. That's the result of practice. James patted the boy lightly on the shoulder. Shall we practice on the court this Saturday? Liam nodded and replied, I'll definitely be there. As they walked toward the parking lot, Emily's smartphone rang. Looking at the screen, she saw it was from Evelyn. It's from Mom, she sighed. I'll call her back later. James nodded understandingly. The relationship with Evelyn was still complicated. Since that wedding, Evelyn and Sarah had left town. Evelyn occasionally called, but she never apologized. She only made excuses, saying it was meant to be a joke at the time. Sarah had started a new job in Chicago and posted photos of a glamorous life on social media, but Emily had heard from acquaintances that she was actually quite lonely. The rumor of her broken engagement with James had long been a topic of gossip in the small town. How about dinner together? James suggested, to celebrate Liam's victory. Thank you, but we'll spend the evening by ourselves, Emily replied. I need to thank my colleague who switched shifts with me. James didn't hide his disappointment but showed understanding. Of course, next time. Over the past year, they had built a special relationship. James fulfilled his role as a legal father and valued the time he spent with Liam once a week. Liam had a new surname, Harrison, and lived confidently at school. See you on Thursday, James said to Liam. I'll help you with your math homework. Thank you, Liam answered with a smile. See you Thursday. On the way home, looking out the window, Liam said, Mom, what did Grandma say today? Emily hesitated for a moment. Grandma wants to visit us next month. Liam showed a surprised expression. Really? Yes, maybe she's changing a little bit too. That evening, after Liam went to bed, Emily sat on the living room sofa, reflecting on the wedding day a year ago, the humiliation and pain of that day, and the unexpected turning point. She had learned that life sometimes changes in the most unexpected ways. The next morning, the doorbell rang. When Emily opened the door, Evelyn was standing there. Instead of her usual lavish attire, She wore a simple dress. "Emily," Evelyn's voice trembled. "May I talk to you?" Emily hesitated slightly but invited her mother into the living room. "I've learned what true family means from James and Liam," Evelyn spoke tearfully. "I don't know if you can forgive me, but I was wrong." Emily took a deep breath. It would take time to rebuild trust, but she remembered the most important lesson. Liam had learned from James. Family is something you choose, something you protect, and sometimes something you forgive. She took Evelyn's hand. It was a moment of new beginnings.